Hey there, my name is Gavin, and in this episode of Freestyle Fundamentals, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do the Psycho. Now, the reason I took so long to make this video is because I really wanted to make sure I was able to land this shot in-game before making a tutorial on it. I don't think a tutorial is very beneficial if I'm not able to land the shot myself. So finally, after a couple of weeks of practice, I was able to get this shot in-game a couple of times cleanly with like a 2-bouncer. And I thought it would be a good idea to try making a tutorial on it with the tips that I learned on my journey. So I hope you guys really enjoy. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments. And if you have any other ideas of what you want tutorials for in this game, please let me know. But yeah, let's get right into it. The first thing I'm going to say for prerequisites is being able to ceiling Musty flick extremely consistently. If you can't ceiling Musty flick basically at command just like God I did right there, you're not going to be able to Psycho. It's just not going to happen. You need to have the ceiling Musty flick on lock every single time. I have an entire video on ceiling Musty flicks that I'd recommend go checking out, but it's essential to landing this tech cleanly. If you don't have a good ceiling Musty flick, it's physically impossible to get enough speed to be able to redirect cross map like we want to do with this shot. So again, really important you get the ceiling Musty flick down. I'll be reviewing in this video how to properly ceiling Musty flick for this kind of shot type. We're not doing like a Musty pop, we're doing a full Musty flick, but in the meantime, just make sure you have those down. The other thing you're going to absolutely need is extremely good car control in the air. Like, extremely good aerial control. When you're up here, you basically have to be able to get your car floating backwards in any position that you might need to be able to redirect this ball. That means being able to fly backwards, forwards, while spinning, any direction, being able to hover with your car basically any angle. It's all going to be super important for landing the shot. And if you don't have that down quite yet, it's probably better to work on your aerial fundamentals first and then later on go for this kind of shot. So with those two things in mind, let's look at some general tips, tricks, advice I have for landing this shot. The number one thing I'm going to have to mention is it's going to take a while to land this shot. Like, you're not going to get it on your first try. No matter how good I explain how to do this tech, it's just not going to happen on your first try. There's so many variables that need to be done that it's just not feasible to expect progress that quickly. I will say, though, I do believe anybody could learn this tech if they put in enough time. Redirects like that just take time to learn and nothing else past that. Okay, so let's get into the first aspect, the pop-up. When you're in game, one of the things I didn't realize because I'd practiced these for so long in training is that you're going to need a lot of boost for this shot, right? It takes a lot of boost. And in that regard, you want to be practicing this shot with lining up with these boost pads right here. So if you look in front of me, there's these 3 boost pads, 1, 2, and 3 right here. And you want to try to get all 3 of those, or at least one of those, on your in run for the shot. So when you're doing your pop-ups, try to pick up this boost pad, or at least pretend to pick up this boost pad right here. It'll set you up for a lot of success that I did not have early on in my Psycho journey, because what would often happen to me in game is I'd go up for the shot and I'd run out of boost. I realized later on that was because I would practice, going up like over here or going up super far back, because in training you have infinite boost. In game, when you don't have infinite boost, this one little mini pad might change you from getting the Psycho to not getting the Psycho. That's terrible wording right there, but just pick up this mini pad. Trust me, going through this mini pad will be a lifesaver later on, I promise. With that out of the way, let's look at the pop-up. So as I said before, we're aiming for this mini pad right here, popping up the ball. Your goal for the pop-up should be to get the ball as high as possible without hitting the ceiling. You kind of want a floater. If you can float the shot up as high as possible, this will make the Psycho way easier. Okay, so plan to get the ball as high as possible without hitting the ceiling. As far as angle goes, you kind of want to be lining up the ball straight towards about these 3 hexagons right here. See this little like dot thing in the wall that I'm driving over right now? If you line up the ball directly towards that thing, it's going to be almost perfect trajectory for landing a clean Psycho. Of course, you can go a little bit more to the left or right either way, but I promise, again, lining up for that will help you get a more consistent setup and give you a little vantage point to look at more than anything else. Let's look at the next part. We have our pop-up already, and again, I want us to try to line up for this little mini pad right here. Just give us a consistent lineup. We got our pop-up, ceiling reset. You want to touch the ball like I did right there. That touch is going to be the money touch right there. That touch helps you line up your ceiling Musty to a consistent trajectory and speed every single time. compared to doing something just like that, where the ball flicks up pretty high, yeah, it's kind of out of control. It's still psychoable, as we can see there. It's still completely redirectable, but you want to make sure that you're getting that touch underneath the ball to line up your psycho. So touch, lined up, okay? And the last part is just the lean right there. And that's going to be a whole nother second half of this video, but let's just look at this pop-up one more time. Again, we're leading up for this boost pad right here, going up to the ceiling, getting our reset, touching the ball, musty flick right there. One thing I'm going to do real quick is turn on my controller overlay right there. Okay. For the musty flick, we're doing a little bit of a delayed musty flick, and this is kind of hard to see without the overlay, but it's important to mention that we are delaying our musty flick just the littlest bit right there. So instead of just doing a full backflip, we're doing this the tiniest bit of delay right there, and that'll help us get more power for the ball, and that's going to be something you kind of just have to feel it on your own. You can watch my overlay right here to kind of see what I'm doing for these, so just like a tiny little delay, but this will help the ball go more forward rather than straight up. If we're doing just a dry backflip, more often than not, the ball is just going to fly to the ceiling kind of like this. And you don't really want that going on. You want to delay it just a tiny bit. So let's look at my bindings here. We're going up right here. Get the one touch just like that. Maybe a little bit higher than that. Must have touched a little bit too high on the ball. Let's try this again. Up to it. Touch. Kind of like that. And then lining it for that redirect. So one more time, just with all this musty stuff. Again, we're going up to this boost pad right here. Okay, we got the boost. Going up to the ceiling. Getting our first touch. Musty flick like that. And then lean back for the psycho. Let's look at the redirect. Now, if you haven't done any redirects in this game, I highly recommend doing a pack that has wall redirects like this, just to help you get the feel down for how to properly redirect the ball. If you don't know how to redirect, the basic principle of it is you're just trying to get the ball to hit either like your front left wheel right here or the very front of your car, that little like ridge part trim thingy underneath my car. Biggest thing with redirects as well is you want your car to be basically flat when you're redirecting the ball. You don't want to be tilted too far up or else the ball is going to shoot straight up. And if you're tilted down, you're going to miss the ball or hit it with your butt. So you don't want that either. Really important thing, again, is just like for these lineups, we're going up, right? Let me get a good backboard hit. Kind of fumble in the bag right now. Lean back, and you want to be leaned back all the way in line with the ball for these redirects. Once again, yeah, kind of like that. I was still pointing too far up. These redirects just take a lot of time and practice to do, but one good general piece of advice I have for the psycho redirect especially is just lining yourself up with the ball as it's coming up the wall. So I'm lined up, leaned all the way back, and just lean your car back as much as you physically can while still trying to get that touch on the ball. This will take a lot of practice, like just a lot of, kind of like that. Very close, but still not precise enough there. And I think this is the hardest part of the psycho, honestly. It's just lining up this redirect right there, actually making sure that, you know, you're getting that touch on the ball. I think that's what makes the psycho so difficult in the first place. And I don't really have a phenomenal tip for these. Like, redirects like that will just take time. Again, my one piece of advice is just lining up with the ball as it's coming off the backboard, but that's pretty general advice. That's kind of just saying like, oh yeah, just shoot the shot. You know, there's a little bit more finesse to it, but with practice, you'll start to get these down a lot better. And another thing I can recommend is just work on redirecting just as much as you can in game. Let's say you have like a friend you can play with or like teammates and stuff like that. Just practice redirecting, you know, any kind of ball coming off of anywhere, and that'll help you out a lot with this shot. The redirect, again, is always finicky, and it'll just take a lot of time to learn. But as long as you're getting good musty flick setups, eventually you will land the psycho. It'll just take some time. If you're getting consistent musty flicks like that, and you have your musty pop-up down, and your delayed flick down, and everything like that, that's going to be the biggest factor in determining if you're going to get a good psycho or not. This is the biggest piece of advice I can give you, is just really get those musty flicks down, really get that timing down, and eventually you'll land the redirect. It'll just take reps and attempts, and you'll get better at it as time goes on. But yeah, that's really all there is to it. This shot is cooked. It is a really, really difficult shot. And again, the reason I took so long to make a video on it is because I just couldn't land it. Like, it took me a very long time to actually get this shot down in game. And, you know, with opponents and everything, I had multiple situations where my Psycho was blocked by an opponent, which, like, that's just heartbreaking right there. And, you know, that shot right there just indicates how precise you have to be with your redirect. You really have to make sure that you got that nose down and everything golden for that. But once again, just going over everything, making sure that you're going through that boost pad on the way up will build really good habits for in-game Psychos. Making sure you're getting a good ceiling reset, flying down to the ball and getting that first touch, and everything in between. And then finally, trying to get a really precise redirect with your cart in front of the ball. Just kind of lean back like that, maybe a little bit faster. And that's going to be everything there is to learn about the Psycho. I really don't have too many other tips and tricks for it. It's one of those shots where, like, even if someone's been freestyling for thousands of hours, they're not going to be able to consistently pull off a Psycho unless you're like Nixus Dragon. That guy's insane. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about this or need any other tips or advice or anything like that, please let me know. But I hope this was at least a little bit beneficial. I'll put the code I'm using in the description to kind of help practice Psychos. And I'm sure you guys will be landing these in absolutely no time at all. So yeah, I hope you guys have a phenomenal day and just keep on grinding out your freestyles, because eventually you'll land anything you're working on. It'll just take time. Anyway, have a great day, guys.